I'm going to give this another shot. I know some people are probably miserable about this, but here's the reason why. My view is that the kind of aggressive strategy of violence is a dominant strategy in the game. However, there may be a few ways to try to break it out and start to see how it was intended to be played. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take, first of all, I'm going to cut the number of players down. I'm going to take a couple of players who are going to try violent strategy and a couple who are going to try the normal strategy. Now, it's possible that, let's say there's four or five players, and just one of them takes a violent strategy. Well, one, they may not need it, and two, if everybody else is not being violent, but they may be the person who gets lucky and blockade off some stuff and force everybody to use their port and stuff like that. But it'll still win them the game, right? The threat of the violence will win them in that case. The other. So I want to make sure that the game is kind of balanced, because my gut reaction goes with people are going to seek to destroy their opponents first thing off, especially because essentially if you get it down to a one-player game, it doesn't matter how big these things have gotten. As soon as you find a village, you will be, as long as you've gotten the other players out, you will be able to win over the course of time. You will be able to beat those values. And it may be the only way that you can beat those values, because it's the only way you can prevent other people from inflating the moneylenders, right? You have to knock people out to make sure the moneylenders don't win. That's one aspect of it. I'm not going to say, well, two of the people are just, peaceniks. No, they're just not going to look at that initial level of extreme violence. A couple of things I'm changing, not in the rules, but one, I'm going to play with the pirates from the start, the way they're supposed to be played, not the way it's written. That was an error. And two, I'm cutting it down to 4 players, because if you go above the number of companies, there are people who are essentially forced into a position where they can't make money off of sort of being nice, right? I mean, you can buy a port, but here's the problem. The first 4 players could buy, the first 5 players can buy the 5 companies. They're limited to buying 1 company each per turn. So the first 5 players can buy a company each. And the first player, well, wait, let's see. And the first 3 of them can buy a port each, which means 2 of the players are limited without a port, which seems like a weakness. And anyone above that first 5 players is limited to only being an investor, which to my mind means that they are almost assuredly, because they will never get control of those companies without the person who owns it handing it off to them, essentially. There are no other companies ever available, and they will never get, they may be able to get control of the port at some point in the game, because maybe they're able to turn their investments, especially if it's bonds and stuff like that, that may exchange for money more quickly, into anything that's functional. But early in the game, the aggressive strategy says, or the violent strategy says that the first couple players who have that ability to put warships out, right? And conceivably, you can put 2 warships out with a port. Those players are going to be able to pretty much dominate play, and one of them will come out as the leader. So we're going to see. I'm trying to think how I want to factor this. Like, am I going to let, and I did this kind of in the first playthrough, am I going to let the first two players be the violent players? I think that generates an overly powerful position for them. But the problem is, the only people who can do it properly are people with ports. And you could make an argument that it's worth investing in the port as a good player. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make player 1 and player 4 be nice guys. They're thinking, hey, this is a game about exploration and, you know, generating profits and whatnot. Players 2 and 3 are going to be absolute assholes, okay? But player 1 is going to have the advantage, and he's player 1 at the beginning of the game, of being able to have a port right off the bat and trying to be nice. Okay, so where the hell am I? Well, oh, and I'm gonna step away from the mechanisms, but yeah, we got to deal with the mainland power and see if it attacks a port. It does not. I don't know how much importance there is to that, but yeah, there was. So the designer and I have had some back and forth about this. We seem to be disagreeing entirely about certain facets of it and about what might work to fix what my complaints are. But I want to make sure that my complaints are valid, because he says he's played it with people and, you know, nobody goes psychopath. I'm like, well, you know, my feeling is true economic gamers, not Euro gamers. Euro gamers are used to, I'm all going to do my little thing and be happy, right? You know, true economic gamers are people who play things, you know, who are faced with the 18xx games, which are harsh as hell, but who play things that are even harsher, like business strategy here, where essentially the goal is to be the person who loses the least money, you know, who goes bankrupt last, because the idea is to try to drive all your competition out of the game. That's the way to win. It isn't in the rules or anything. The rules are all built up about these complex economic model that, like, you know, allows you to take out loans, produce product and everything. But the truth of the matter is, if you knock everybody else out of the game, you have a monopoly and you can set prices and do things however you like. So you know, you're looking to lose money the slowest so that everyone else goes out before you. And, you know, then you can win. And I postulate that this game has a similar model. And honestly, maybe all sort of pure economic games do, right? Crusoe's Planet feels kind of that way. Like, you know, you're going to starve everyone so that they can't win. Okay. So anyway, I'll get started, and I'm going to try to play it more blown back so that, you know, specific mechanisms and whatever don't really come out. But we're going to see things where a nice guy might win trying to defend themselves with a boat, with a warship. But if they're in a position where they can crush all their enemies, they're still going to take it. They're just not going to start off with the idea that the necessary, the best way to win this game is to crush everyone. Okay, let's get going. Luck is going to play such a big part in this, though, because of storms and whatnot can wipe you out, that it's not going to be definitive in any sense. So, you know, yeah, I'm kind of hedging here. So I spent all 5 of my bucks, bought 5 shares. Why did I do that? Well, because I'm going to take out a loan, and I don't want to have to pay it. So I think that's actually more viable. It gets me a bigger share in whatever the valuation is. And then if this starts making money, I can sell these for more and more value. Right now they're worth $1 each, and that's what I have to deal with them. I took out a loan and bought Greenport. Greenport is not going to take out, it doesn't need to take out a loan. Greenport is not going to take out a loan, but I am going to buy a warship. That's to protect my holdings. The fact that my port is over to the side gives me a more powerful position. The next two players are going to be at each other, which means one of them is going to probably come out of it ahead, right? Again, I don't know what happens on tie rolls for combat. If both ships sink, then no. It could be they both just lose the game in that case, but I'll play it the way I've been doing it. So this is the first player, and he's set up. He's got a ship, which can go exploring. Doesn't have enough money, and I kind of can't have enough money because of the negative 15 to 5 to be able to actually do much. However, I am in the position, nope, the treasury's negative. So if, oh no, the port, so if I don't buy the ship, let's say I don't buy the warship yet. There's 10 bucks in here. Next turn, I can actually take a commodity. That sounds appealing, actually, because that way I can increase my speed of cash. And I'll have time to build my ship. So that sounds reasonable to me. This should be a 3, not 4. Again, I don't think that matters because I think you're going to wipe out your opponents eventually in this game, no matter what. Why 3? Because I took out loans with both of these. Onto the first Vial player. Now, which is the more valuable location? That's I got to figure that out. I don't know. A bit of an error there. I have to be at negative 15 here, not negative 10. This is without any kind of pulsing. I think pulsing is going to throw things into a very different type of behavior. One that might actually force you into a more violent behavior because you can't do something like this. So I bought 1 share of the company and used my other 4 bucks to make bonds. I think that's going to get me a better return on investment, to tell you the truth. And it enables the company to sell shares so I can transfer my own money in when the value gets higher and just pillage the company in that way. Then after spending all that money, I took out my loan, which I should be down 2 more loans. This is where the problem is going to come. The third player is not going to have enough money to take both a ship and a port, I think. We'll see. Basically, you need 2 bucks, 1 for the company loan and 1 for the loan that gets you a port. So that's going to actually divide things up in a more interesting fashion. Okay. I went with port yellow because it's on the corner of the map. That way I can protect my my company with this fleet, and it also prevents red from being able to have a 2-space start, which is more valid. I think we're filled out there. I built the warship because that's necessary for this plan. Now, I could have taken out a loan, but a loan doesn't really help me. It just makes me a target for the mainland power if it comes to that. Third player, violent player. There's no way to make money. So here's the problem with third player. There's no way to make money off of a port on its own at this stage in the game. So buying my way into a port doesn't seem like a valid choice. But there's also no way to make money off a company. Somebody's got a ship there. Now, I don't care who the player is, they've got to be concerned with the possibility of violence, right? And violence that takes out my company since I can't cut deals, it's not like Lords of Sierra Madre. I can't say, let me give you a little bribe. You might lose the battle anyway, but let me give you $2 and you let my ship go. Of course, that's a horrible deal. You'll be at a disadvantage to that player for the rest of the game, but they'll probably take it for that very reason. And you're at such a huge disadvantage in the combat. Unlike Lords of Sierra Madre, so in Lords of the Sierra Madre, basically, you buy some guerrilla, you buy some banditos or, the military or something like that, and you tell a player, look, you got a nice operation there. It'd be a shame if it was destroyed. Well, the same kind of thing would play here if you had a capacity to take some of their earnings, some of their value, or just straight up, since it would destroy you as a player, hey, give me at least $2 and I'll leave you alone for a couple turns, whatever. And then we'll discuss later. So yeah, that's not really a valid choice. Now, each port has a maximum of 1 good in it that gets used up. So that has to be tracked. There's not an easy way to track that, but okay. I mean, we could come up with ways, like putting a money counter on each port and holding that off. So what the hell does this person do in the sense of violence? They pass. They pass. This guy, again, buying a port doesn't seem like a valid choice, and buying a company, it doesn't seem wise. All right, now we're seeing where ports like this one may end up buying companies. I'm not sure how much value there is to buying additional companies, but he is allowed to buy another company, so he could take 2/3. Well, the thing is, the company then can take out a loan and can launch another ship, so that gives twice the amount of capability. So, from what I've learned, these guys are not in safe positions. They have nothing they can do. They're locked down. Now, in prior games, I would have allowed them to buy a pirate or whatever, but that's not valid. The Greenport guy, this guy could say, hey, Greenport guy, I'd like to be able to build a ship at your port. Greenport guy says, why? Why should I allow you to do that? I mean, I'm not being nasty, but what am I getting out of it? If the order of play randomizes, I might lose my opportunity to deliver goods that I've avoided building a navy for. So yeah, what are you offering me exactly, right? Everybody's got like enough money to like do 1 or 2 things, but these guys' choices are so horrible, I think they pass. They hope for an opportunity to arise at some other time in the game. Maybe. This guy's got the advantage. He's got first shot at it. But even this guy, who's on the nice guy side, is like, yeah, but the fact that he took this port over here means that this port's just not safe, and I can't risk it. Guy wants to ruin everybody. He does not particularly wish to see any player making enough money to start anything, or in a position to start anything. So he doesn't have any really interesting options for these guys. But this guy may. This guy could say, you know what? If the 2 of you each give me your $5, and how can I get that? Well, I'm not going to sell you all my shares. Those are valuable. But at some level or another, I may sell you bonds. If I had 10 more bucks at that company, except that I'm going to pay off $1 from here, so I'm going to be short. If I had 10 more bucks in my company, I would be able to, so maybe it's $12. You guys have to take out loans to make this work. I would be able to then buy a colonist or something along that lines. However, you know, it's just, I'm not going to sell enough bonds that they're going to make double their money, right? So if I'm giving them 6 bonds, if I want $6 from them, I might give them 8 bonds each. What this guy started out with, his way of getting the money. With sort of that idea of, and maybe throw a share of stock in or something, just to make them sort of linked into that. But unless both of them agree. And while this guy might be somewhat willing to just put his fate, you know, in, well, maybe I'll come in second this way. Or maybe this guy's plan is stupid, and I understand the system better, and he's offering me a bad deal, which he just shouldn't have done, you know. But this guy, thinking that that guy's going to get that the first player's going to get an advantage off of it, sure the hell isn't going to do it. And in fact, no one is going to make a deal where it's obvious that the other person has an advantage. Now, the obvious is the question. Am I making a wrongful assumption here? Is that kind of bond structure actually going to help these guys more than it helps him? Or does it just help them both? Which is a possibility. So I think they both hold off. That bond structure doesn't look like a great deal, taking a lot of debt and precluding yourself from ever getting to play in your own companies to give this guy enough funding to build a colonist or something. It just doesn't look like a wise choice. Now, that's the choice that is always going to be the case in more than 5 players. You're going to always have people who are just sitting there with, well, what can I do? Maybe sit on my $5 and buy a pirate later on in the game, or buy 50% of a pirate and hope that I can convince other people to buy. Well, I can take out a loan and buy the whole pirate. Okay. So yeah. So that's where we stop on the first turn, and we move on to the second. The designer hasn't spoken one way or the other to me about the need for the pulsing. I'm going to leave this as first player for the entire game. If anything, that gives one of the nice guys a good advantage over the 2 evil people, right? All right. I checked the mainland power. Nothing happened. The money lenders are going to demand their money. I don't know if there's any out there. Nope, there's nothing that they can collect. And they're down to $1. And as long as they're not collecting money, nobody can get a start. Okay. You know, this is a chance where you have time to wipe yourself out. So the white player picks up goods, which he's able to deliver, or which he's able to pick up from here. He's got 1 point of goods. And the question is, does he want to build a navy? He's got this port, that's great, but I got $10 in here. I'm not really in any danger right now. So maybe bad things will happen to other players if I don't. So, I mean, the question is, well, do I really need to put this here? But I'm not planning on going violent, and there's no reason for me to let anyone build a ship, build a company, right? Like, that, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to, creating pieces of ports. Yeah, the magistrate of a port can disallow any company or port from the creation of pieces at their port. I don't know if that excludes the possibility of being able to place a shared harbor, because port and harbor are different things. That would change the nature of the game somewhat. Yeah, I don't think it's worth building a ship in this case. The only problem is I could lose money, and the point is, with $10 in here, I can actually build 2 ships. But as soon as that goes below 10 bucks, because the mainland power hits me, not so good, right? Randomization, there's only enough money out there to start one thing. That could be one of the two companies, which, as long as this guy doesn't see a reason to let you start, as long as this guy doesn't either, has to start here in dire danger. Not a wise move. Another option would be to buy a port, to buy the last remaining port, which might be really important. Problem with buying the last remaining port is you're not getting shares of a company, you're getting prestige at a port, which isn't really of value directly, right? It's just more about control than anything else. And what that means is that I'd be spending all my opportunity to get a port in play. This is a truly evil move, is to just say, screw it, I'm not going to let anybody win, and build ships to try to hunt things down. I don't think that's a valid option. Let's go to the second player here with his yellow ship. He didn't want to move it because he doesn't want to risk this side of things. He's got enough money, i.e. none, that he could have built another ship, but he doesn't see a purpose to that yet. So I think we've kind of come to a point where there's this weird equilibrium where there's two people playing the game and two people not. But the two people who are playing are actually both playing. One of them built a military capability which locked the other two players out, but because this guy went first and was able to pick this space, and I think anybody would, an evil player would pick it and then send their ship off to screw with the other two. He's actually got a bit of an advantage. He hasn't built a navy. He's delivering some cargo, perhaps. Of course, both of these companies only have a 50-50 chance of surviving, but if they die, that opens up interesting opportunities for the two people who can't play right now. Second player's turn, he is wiped out by a storm. What does he have for capabilities? Basically nothing. He can't take out any loans. His company's bankrupt, basically. He's negative money. All he's got is a share in the port. Which might mean now he's in a position which is different from what we've seen in the game and different from anything else. The only way to restore his position is to try to cut a deal with these guys. And he can do that by letting them start a company and promising not to hunt them down, to hunt their ships down. Because even a capture of their ship doesn't really give him anything of any value. He's got 10 bucks invested that can be beaten by anybody with 20 bucks in Port Yellow. That's his only ownership. But the agreement is that they will deliver goods back to Port Yellow. Interesting, opportunity. The danger to that, there's a storm near them, kind of, and he could be lying and just knock them out of the game, but that pretty much gives the only opportunity, and it's only a 50-50 chance at best, of the game going over to this guy, and it's less than 50-50 because he's able to create two warships and try to knock him out of the game. Certainly player 2 can play as a spoiler and try to destroy anybody's chances. One person can destroy everybody's chances. I'm convinced of that. Because with those two ships, I could move over and kind of blockade this port, and now green port isn't available. And this ship would have to explore to try to make its way in. But let's be friendly. Let's offer these guys a chance. Now this guy's inherently non-trusting and just says no. But this guy's willing to take him up on it. So he's going to start a company over here in the risky space and do what he can. He would much rather start the company over here, and in fact, he'll try to negotiate that. Hey, how about I start my thing not there? It does you no good. We make the same deal. I deliver stuff back to the yellow company. Sounds like a good deal, huh?
blue's set up. Batteries are going badly in terms of taking out a lot of bonds, so I want to try that out again. So this player is doing the same thing. Bought one share, bought a bunch of bonds, thinks that's going to work better. It probably doesn't make a damn bit of difference, but built his ship here with his agreement. I'm putting a little yellow boat here to indicate, hey, we're only going to go to the yellow port. If somebody backtracks on a deal, there's nothing you can really do about it, but hey, you know. And that kind of negates him from being able to use the red port for anything valuable if it comes down to that. Okay. And we've gone to, well, we'll take a look at how people are being dicks. So actually that's not even safe. I don't want to do that, because this guy's going to screw me over. He's going to sink my ship. So I've got to go here. I've got to be in protection of that yellow ship, because otherwise this guy's going to be a dick and he's just going to take it out because he's frustrated, right? So I can't take that chance, and that means I'm not going to get to deliver cargo on the way down, which is fine. It's a minor thing. And this guy's looking at, maybe I can get a pirate once somebody builds. Well, no, I only have $5. Well, I can take out a loan. Okay. And that means storm movement. Over here. And to the next turn, I guess. Players, we see a buildup of fleets. Wiping out the treasuries and, oops, and creating money lenders with no money anymore. Over to this guy, still doesn't see any opportunities unless he's got some kind of offer available. Let me build a boat. What can I do? Well, if he had money or something, I could offer, you know, I could offer to buy bonds at stupid prices or something like that to reduce his treasury. I could make some kind of deal to try to get a company in play for what's really a marginal advantage to this guy. Whereas it creates a player who might do significantly better, because if these two ships both sink, this guy still can't get above. Of course, he's at $5, which puts him in second place to the mainland, which hasn't attacked yet. So he's going to pause. This guy's going to keep going with his deal. Does he want to explore? I mean, I might as well. Might as well get my exploration done. Oh, another storm. All right, so there goes the purple player. That's 2 out of the 5 possible companies, and pretty much 2 out of the 4 players out of the game already. So he keeps his blockade or his defense in place, continues, still alive. I mean, I think that's one of the things. It's so likely that everybody's just going to die that the ultra-violent situation is your way of tipping it so that you're the last person remaining. Like, you're improving your chances with that. And that may be the case. This guy's still holding off because there's too many warships out there and too many storms. There's just nothing for him to go for. But if he can build a pirate, then he can take this guy out, right? If he survives. And this guy just has nothing left. You know, he's wiped out just like blue is. All his money's gone. He actually has the capacity to take another loan, as would this guy. This is the problem. This guy has the capacity to take a loan, but there's no money left. The money lenders are drained dry. So he can't do shit anymore, and nobody else can either, because unlike in the prior games where a fair amount of money went back to the money lenders, I kind of engineered things here so that no money goes back to them, because you don't want to lose your cash, you know? You want to keep something like the port positive if you possibly can. Though that's going to... No, that can't even change. He can't build another ship. Ugh. Harsh. Live with a slight chance of making some of my loans go away a little bit, tiny bit, not much. Second player has positioned his ships in the the mainland hit the remaining port, the only one with any cash in it, and took 5 of its $10 away, making it a less interesting purchase at this point. The yellow fleet's positioning themselves for an attack. Green kind of has to launch an attack on its next turn. They would have already launched an attack if I was randomizing turn order. About doubles, probably should have attacked before, because now I've got a standoff and now I'm going to be facing a bigger die. The only thing that the yellow ship can do is roll that bigger die. I guess I'll make the attack from this one. No harm. No, I want to make it from this because I still don't want a company starting here. That ship could slip away. I get doubles, a double value. So now I've got 3 ships in the yellow port. Can't do anything with them. Can't convert them into merchants. Can't sell them to my companies or anything like that. They're pure warships. The only thing I could do is maybe engineer, so that they could be captured if I had a pirate or something that, or a colony ship that could attack them. But yeah, would be starting too close to the enemy. That's the thing. That's why this couldn't move, because a ship could start here and then conceivably get away. I don't know what that would mean, but it would be worth a try to start a company that way. So he's still out of play, holding his $5, in second place to the mainland power right now. The next turn, one thing you could do is let this guy do nothing and hope the storms win you the game. They might find a village or something. Or land. I thought this guy found land, but it was a 9. You need a 10. Another thing you could do that would maybe help is to make, hey, if you're at least 5 or 6 oceans out, now a 9 or a 10 finds land or something along those lines. Because as it is, this guy really has a 50-50 chance of being able to find land, right? Finding land doesn't guarantee that he gets a village or anything like that, but let's say he can, because I think that the mechanisms are such that that makes it more likely, but it's still less than 50-50 for that. And I got somebody who's basically preventing me from ever going back. It's a long walk of exploration, and those ships can shift around. So, I mean, I kind of want to keep playing just to see, hey, did I find anything? Does anything happen? But yeah, I feel like there's absolutely no chance. This guy could spend a shitload of money to create a pirate that he'd still be at negative money, because pirates don't make money on their own, right? Pirates and ports don't make money. Only companies make money. So, like, and this guy's the only guy with any chance of making money right now? Unless he wants to offer something up that makes a deal that really kind of works. Which he might. He might be able to make a deal with the yellow player, just like this guy did. That gets him something of interest. Probably this guy will want at least as big a share as he has, though. Which doesn't seem fair, right? It might be able to make it a little less with port entrance. I gave too good a deal to him, letting him run his own company. But the reason for that is, I don't know. I'm the one holding the cards, so I should have demanded more. Certainly at this point, I'm going to demand more. Yeah. Proving my point, I think I've already got the answer, though. Sure, this guy's not going to win the game anymore. He's got 3 warships. That's neat and everything. But he's not going to win. But that was a matter of the luck between these two, right? This guy's extra little coin that he has on board isn't really helping him. And had things gone differently, this more aggressive stance, even though they built the same stuff basically, this more aggressive stance, it's possible that that ship would have been the one that survived and this one isn't, or they both survive, and the one that's not being chased down, the one that's not being blockaded, the one that didn't win the military race, is just going to they don't have a chance of winning, right? Like, if it had gone the other way and blue was the one that survived and this one either survived or didn't, it didn't matter. Blue would have a chance of winning the game, still. Now, why did it work out the way it did? Why did the odds work out in such an advantageous sense? Well, it happened because this guy held off a turn. Otherwise, he could have as big a navy and be just as big a dick. But you're just fucking handcuffed, right? If somebody goes violent and wins that little struggle, you lose, right? And that little struggle's, if you're lucky as the non-violent person, you can make it 50-50, which I could have done by attacking on the first round. By being more violent. I could have evened the odds up by putting a 50-50 shot on a ship where, hey, maybe I win the ship, and then, oh, look, I win. I've got the ships. But, yeah, I just don't see a way forward that, part of me wants to keep going, but I think I'm not going to. I think I'm hanging my hat up here. This added attempt to prevent Asper Nestling from being continued. Tomorrow I gotta go dancing, and I'm just dreading getting to that, but getting back to it after so long. It's been, 2 months since I played last or something. But yeah, it just looks like the dominant strategy is going ultra violent, and seize up resources so other players can't do anything. Even in 4 players, we were able to lock 2 of the players out pretty easily. Well, one violent player was able to lock out the other 2 players. This guy wasn't being violent. He just saw no reason to let them build at his port. Why? Why would I do that? What can you offer me? What can you give me of any value, that makes up for me giving you a shot at the game? Nothing. You don't have to be violent. You just have to. You're economically violent. You starve them out, and one player being violent and throwing their ships out, and 3 people grabbing ports and saying, "Well, nobody else gets to play." Same thing. It's just at whatever level you play this game, the way it's built, with the refusals, port's ability to prevent people from doing stuff and things. The only reason that you start seeking out cooperation that I see is that you're fucked. You're out of the game. And now it's time to see, well, what can I get out of someone else? In this case, I was getting, you'll make all your deliveries to my port. And I'll be charging you 50% tax. And that's cool, man, right? Yeah. If you violate that, well, I've got a navy and you don't. At some point in the game, that could turn. But for a long time, I would be getting half the income of that company. It doesn't help me with stocks, though. Stocks would be problematic, but the port could start buying stocks in blue, and thus funding it and getting it moving. This guy, well, now he's the last chance. What would I offer? What deal would I offer? Well, as many shares as you're buying, and a little bit of bonds, so that I have a greater economic interest than you do in the company that you're running. The only thing that you have an advantage is the fact that you actually own the company, which isn't really going to be an advantage because I'm probably going to also force you to use the yellow port. Otherwise, well, you could hold different leverage, right? You're not going to gain. Well, yeah, who cares? I'm in second place in the game. What are you in? What are you in? At -15. If you want to run the valuations that way, sure. That doesn't feel right, though. I feel like I have all the power. So, I mean, so what? So what that you got some more score than me in some hypothetical thing? I've got a working fleet, you don't. I am the country. I want half your money for you to operate. And that's very much, the Sierra Madre type thing. I want to get the advantage over you. And again, you could make the argument, well, these guys tried to do something, so they're at negative money. This guy's at +5, this guy's at 0. But that doesn't, everybody evaluates games on their own sense, and my sense is that this guy's doing better than anyone else, even though he doesn't have cash. Even though he's got a negative score overall, he can prevent everything from happening. And, what can I do to raise money? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because I am wiped out. So you could make the argument that these guys are wiped out. This guy has potentiality or something like that. But it's potentiality he's not allowed to use. So, yeah. So some of it could just be a matter of, hey, how do you view victory in the game? And I cannot view that the person who did nothing is the one who won. But if you want to view it that way, then that becomes the dominant strategy. The dominant strategy becomes not taking the risk at all. Making sure you always have more cash than anyone else. And did they win? No, they came in second. The moneylenders lose too, though. That's kind of cool.